So this is a non-political post. I know a few of my posts have been, political. So I want to speak about, something that, I was listening to the Bible this morning, and of course I'm in like Numbers, and it was speaking about how, God shows all these miracles to Israel, the people of Israel. Some believed him, some didn't, and I was really struck, with one portion that I was, talking about. And something that I've never understood in the past is, when, God struck like the people of Israel, because they, didn't believe what he said. So in this particular passage, God was angry, and he wanted to, just totally wipe out Israel and, cause, Moses, to, his descendants to multiply, because obviously, Moses was obedient, and he did that once before, with, Noah and the ark, where he just saved Noah and his family. And so, God said, of course, that he would never do it again. So, you get some things that, sound like they contradict. But, looking at it from the heart's standpoint is that, I was listening to that passage to where, Moses was intervening on behalf of the people of Israel. He said, Lord, you don't want the enemies of Israel to say that, you took them out in the desert and then you killed them. So, God heard him. So, in the past, I would look at that and said, maybe God was, testing Moses and wanted to see what he would say. It could be possible that God was doing that. Just like, Jesus, when he was laying in the boat while there was a storm going on, his head was on the pillow and he was out. And I used to think in the past when I read that, maybe Jesus was testing his disciples' faith. But honestly, I believe that he was just so tired from ministering to so many people that, he just was in a deep sleep. But God woke him up, because it was all about the ministry of healing and saving people. And of course, we're going to be dealing with the flesh in those circumstances. We don't feel like doing something, but we're dealing with inconvenience. How are we going to respond under inconvenience? Are we going to be irritated and stuff, or are we going to be loving? So, I think honestly, when Moses was intervening on behalf of Israel, I think God, I'd said that Moses was the friend of God. So I think God was talking to him as a friend. When we're dealing with issues, we tell our friends, so we get support, we can get comfort, we can get, whatever we would need, advice or whatever. So I think God was being a friend with Moses. He allowed Moses to, consult with him, because, just like a boss would, get to the friendship level of an employee, and talk about personal stuff. I think honestly that's what God did with Moses. So, it could be possible that, maybe God was testing Moses' heart to see what he would say. But there's many times in Scripture where God was just saying through his prophet, just, he's just expressing his feelings. And, we know that he would never destroy the earth again. But I think, God was irritated so many times with the lack of faith on the part of Israel. And, Jesus manifested that same feelings, and the disciples' lack of faith and the people's lack of faith. So, like I said, I honestly believe that, God was having a heart-to-heart with Moses, and imagine that, being able to, to consult with God about something and getting to that level of, just being there for God. And what comes to mind is when, the preacher Jesse Duplantis on his trip went to heaven, and he saw Jesus, and before he came back to earth, Jesus was talking heart to heart with Jesse, and he was talking about that scripture where he's going to wipe every tear from his eyes or whatever, and Jesus told Jesse that those are my eyes. He said that how he dreaded to send, some people to hell. Well, of course, they're choosing to go that way, but he dreads doing that, and he was sharing his feelings with Jesse. And, he can do that with us. We can get that personal with Jesus if we only allow ourselves to. If we could put aside our busyness, make that time, to allow ourselves to get closer to Jesus, he could share things with us. And, Jesse said in another video just how, he got to that place to where, he, I guess he hurt God's feelings or whatever it is. I really don't know about that, because it seemed like that part in, his testimony of heaven, it seemed like it was just religious garbage, getting people to feel sorry for being busy or whatever. And God doesn't do manipulation, as I have said in my books. But, we should know what we need to do. We know we need to spend time with Jesus. But it's usually us that keeps us from doing it. It's not God. There's always that time we can spend. If we can get to that place to where, we can hear God throughout the day, we wouldn't need to worry about, setting aside time to spend with Jesus, So, it's all about that relationship. How much time are we willing to spend in getting, to that place of being closer to Jesus? So, I just wanted to share that thought with you. It really struck me, just how God got personal. He was talking about his feelings and how he was feeling with Moses, and he allowed Moses to consult with him. He took what Moses said to heart. And of course, I believe God was going to do it anyways. I mean, he would always remember that, he wasn't going to, strike the earth again and kill people because of lack of obedience. So I'm going to end it here. And of course, my phone's all screwed up. I can't, balance it right. The back needs to be fixed. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for taking the time to watch.